Central now this hour begins with development in Kano State, where we understand that the residence of the 15th Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero, remains sealed amidst rising tensions in the state. Now on Wednesday, security forces blocked roads near the Kano Government House and the Nasarawa Emir's residence, causing heavy traffic congestion. The Kano Police Command confirmed the deployment, citing intelligence on a planned violent protest. 17 suspects have been arrested. Now, videos on social media claim Kwankwasiyya supporters planned demonstrations against President Tinubu's alleged interference in Kano's Emirate dispute. The crisis stems from the 2019 division of the Kano Emirate, with rival emirs now coexisting in the city. Security personnel remain on high alert, and the situation remains tense. Moving away from that now, the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has petitioned the Chief Justice of Nigeria, CJN, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, urging her to direct the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, to reassign his case to another judge with proper jurisdiction. In a letter to the CJN, Kano's legal team, led by Aloy Ejimako, argued that Justice Binta Nyako, who is currently presiding over the case, had already recused herself following Kano's allegations of bias. Now, Kano is facing 7 counts of terrorism-related charges brought against him by the federal government. Ejimako argued that legal principles dictate that once a judge recuses themselves, they are disqualified from further involvement in the case. He urged the CJN's administrative intervention to ensure that the case is reassigned. Let's go to the southwest, as we're still monitoring the developments at the Lagos State House of Assembly, where we understand that all police escorts assigned to the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Honorable Mojisola Miranda, as well as those securing the Assembly complex, have been withdrawn with immediate effect. Now, confirming the situation, the Speaker's Special Advisor on Information, Victor Gonzalo, expressed deep concern over the abrupt withdrawal of security personnel. He warned that the Speaker is now vulnerable and open to attack, emphasizing the urgent need for a resolution to the security lapse. The reason for the withdrawal remains unclear, and there has been no official statement from the Lagos State Police Command or the state government regarding this development. News Central now this hour continues with the story from President Bola Tinubu, who says Nigeria's economy is improving, citing a drop in food prices ahead of Ramadan. Now, speaking at the APC National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja, Tinubu expressed gratitude for the trust placed in him and reaffirmed his commitment to progressive governance. The meeting was attended by Vice President Kashim Shettima, Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and other top APC leaders. Party leaders pledged support for Tinubu's policies, emphasizing economic recovery and unity within the APC. National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje assured members of the continued efforts to fulfill electoral promises, while lawmakers vowed to support the president's reforms. The meeting followed an APC caucus session held on Tuesday night.
The Nigerian economy is seeing the sky of the day. And people are happy with the food prices going down, particularly during the Ramadan period. So, thanks to the governor. The governors, they've embraced this change, this reform, wholeheartedly. And I thank to the leadership of our party, from state to state. Yes, it's politics. We still have to have some contradictions here and there, but we should resolve it amicably. Let the next find a way to celebrate our progressive ideology. I'm on that path, and I promise you, governors and legislature that we will continue on that progressive path for development, prosperity, and sustenance.
So I conclude by endorsing this motion and congratulating you, Mr. President, congratulating your Vice President, and even the leaders of the National Assembly. Because without a collaborative legislative environment, reforms can be deformed. But under their leadership, reforms are truly reforming everywhere. Thank you, Mr. President. Great member, thank you. I second the motion.
On your mandate we shall stand.
He has announced a reduction in the ex-depot price of premium motor spirit (PMS) by 65 naira, lowering the price from 890 naira to 825 naira per litre. The new price takes effect from tomorrow, 27th of February 2025. According to Dangote, the adjustment aims to provide financial relief to Nigerians ahead of the Ramadan season, while also aligning with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic recovery policies to ease the financial burden on citizens. This latest cut marks the second reduction in February 2025, following a previous decrease of 60 naira earlier in the month. Now, to discuss this, we're joined by a development analyst, Gbolahan Olojede. Thank you so much, Gbolahan, for joining us. Now, how exactly will Dangote Refinery's pricing strategy and distribution through specific retail partners like, those mentioned, affect market competition and the pricing strategies of other fuel retailers, particularly the NNPC?
What we have seen in previous price adjustment was that the competitors also followed suit. They also adjusted because the natural thing for the buyers, the consumers, is if I get a product at 65 naira less, definitely I would rather queue and get it at that price than go to other stations where the items cost more. So definitely the competitors are going to be forced to do something about their own pricing.
Right. Now, what factors exactly contribute to the regional price disparities in Dangote petrol across Nigeria?
Okay. One of the things that a truly market-driven environment should engender is this kind of price differential in the PMS market. I remember living in another part of the world before, where I normally buy my petrol, I drive like about 3 kilometers to go and get the petrol from that place, just because the differential in price. So it is the cost profile of individual sellers that should determine the price that they can attach to their product. So what my cost profile is, and both cost of operations, and if I import, cost of importation, cost of logistics. By the time I put all my costs together and I have determined what is the margin that I'm expecting, that is what will determine the individual prices in a free market situation.
So how sustainable would you say that these prices or the price reductions are in the long term, considering fluctuations in global crude oil prices, the exchange rates, and other economic factors?
It may not always be a decrease anyway. So I don't know how to contextualize the issue of sustainability within the reality of the fact that there are so many factors that determine the price. And a major one is the price of crude in the international community, in the international market, provided issues of subsidy is removed. So if there are no form of subsidy whatsoever, and the market is just open for everybody, then the critical price driver, the number one price driver, will be the price. And it is not necessarily going to go down, it will also go up.
All right. Okay, so how effectively will this distribution through selected retail partners ensure the widespread consumer accessibility to petrol?
Well, I don't think we have settled yet in the market. It seems as if there are still a bit of some games, here and there being played. For example, Dangote on one side will say, I can provide the need of this market. NNPC on the other side will say, no, you cannot provide the need. We must import before we can get the need of the market filled. So there are still some disharmony in the market. So the market itself has not settled. It is when it has settled that things become more predictable. So as it is today, there are queues in MRS stations. I observe it myself, meanwhile, some other stations, maybe particularly the NNPC, are not getting as much patronage as you see with the NNPC, with the MRS stations, where Dangote fuel, which has been said to be of a better quality, is being offered. Whether it's a better quality or not, it's not meant to be a social media affair. It's meant to be a technical affair. We have not seen the technical side of things as championed by the regulator in that space. We've not seen that. So the market has not settled, and there will continue to be all sort of, competition, whether they are real or not. As long as it is downward anyway, as long as it brings the prices downward, the consumer is happy for it.
All right, development analyst Bola Olojede, thank you so much for joining us to discuss this.
Thanks for having me.
A pleasure. Now, the World Bank has approved $2.2 billion in new loans for Nigeria in 2025, spread across 6 key projects. According to the World Bank's project list, $500 million is allocated for community resilience, while $552 million will support quality basic education. Another $800 million is set aside for nutrition programs, with $300 million for internally displaced persons and host communities, as well as another $300 million for health security. A digital infrastructure initiative, Bridge, is expected to receive $500 million in September. Nigeria remains the third largest borrower from the World Bank's International Development Association, with a loan exposure of $16.8 billion as of December 2024. Many thanks for staying with us. Now we move to more stories. Nigeria's military faces growing security challenges following the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali from ECOWAS, says the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar. Speaking in Abuja, Abubakar warned that the move has weakened regional security, affecting joint operations against Boko Haram and ISWAP. He stressed the need for a stronger response from the Nigerian Air Force. He also highlighted new threats, including Boko Haram's use of drones and terrorist expansion into coastal West Africa. Meanwhile, Nigeria's counter-terrorism chief, Major General Adamu Laka, warned that extremists are pushing into Benin Republic and other coastal cities, calling for stronger regional cooperation to curb their spread. Suspected Boko Haram terrorists attacked Kwapri and nearby villages in Adamawa State's Hong local government area, leaving widespread destruction. The attack, which began around 7:30 p.m. local time on Tuesday, February 25, and lasted into Wednesday morning, saw churches, schools and homes, as well as businesses burnt down. Village heads Joel Kulaha and Abalis Jawaja confirmed the attack, saying valuables were looted, but no lives were lost as residents fled in advance. Soldiers stationed in nearby Garaha responded, engaging the terrorists and forcing them to retreat. Kwapri has suffered repeated attacks since the Boko Haram insurgency began, with this incident marking the 10th assault on the community. Now, Nigeria's federal government has signed an EPC+F contract of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project, which allows the contractor to engage foreign investors willing to finance the project. This event, which took place at the Ministry of Works in Abuja, will support the contractor in completing the project and help stimulate economic growth. The minister says this will help with the completion of 750-kilometer roads spanning coastal several states in the country.
Through the Federal Ministry of Finance to bring in foreign investments into these projects. The federal government commitment is 30% counterpart funding, which the President is fulfilling. And now there is foreign component of the project, and and that is foreign financing that will come in.
Now, in its continuous war against fake news in Nigeria, the Action Against Fake News Network, AAFN, has officially unveiled its mascot symbolizing zero tolerance to deliberate disinformation and misinformation. News Central's Oluwakemi Alimi has more.
Fake news poses serious risks to individuals, communities, and society by spreading misinformation, creating confusion, and eroding trust in credible sources. It deepens social and political divisions, incites violence, damages reputations, and endangers lives, among others. Additionally, it threatens economic stability and cybersecurity, impacting businesses and increasing vulnerability to cybercrimes. In view of these alarming consequences, the Action Against Fake News Network has taken a bold step to further emphasize its commitment to combating disinformation and misinformation. The network is proud to unveil its official mascot, a symbol of its unwavering dedication to promoting truth, accuracy, and media literacy. This mascot serves as a powerful reminder of the network's mission to educate, inform, and empower individuals to make informed decisions and reject false information.
Fake news is the only weapon that the enemy of progress have at their hands to use and to unleash their pain at any given time. So with this mascot, we feel bold to say anywhere we are, anywhere we go, it has become fashion of our socialization. And that will also continue to put a red card to the promoters of fake news in our lands.
Stakeholders at the event emphasized the importance of collective action in the fight against fake news. The convener also highlighted that tackling misinformation is crucial for national development and stability.
I think the onus is on everybody as a stakeholder to champion the fight against fake news. Because if you look at the impact of fake news can destroy the society. And if we don't have a very peaceful society, that means that it will affect each and every one of us.
My message today, please let us care about our nation. This is the country that we have. Nigerians are resilient. Nigerians are trustworthy. Nigeria is a great country. And so if we see our nation like that, we'll begin to spread correct news about our nation.
Eradicating fake news is not just a media challenge. It is a societal responsibility that requires the active participation of every citizen. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Oluwakemi Alimi.
Now, the level of attention given to education at the basic and secondary schools in a society will determine to a large extent where it will be placed in the global map in the future. Stakeholders in the education sector in Abia State believe that adequate intervention now will change the negative narrative of primary and secondary schools in the state. News Central's Chinwe Ugele reports that Abia State government has introduced a new initiative to revolutionize the sector.
About 928 public primary schools and 274 public secondary schools in Abia State. There are tendencies that reforms should be carried out periodically. The outcry by the public and realization by the government on the level of dilapidation in the sector has birthed the transformation agenda.
We envision an Abia where every child reads very well, every student thinks critically, every graduate is globally competitive, every teacher is empowered and respected, every school is the center of excellence.
Abia State is expected to contribute to the global workforce projected for Africa by 2050, and so must prepare to meet the needs.
Our students will be equipped not only with knowledge, but with the needed skills, values, and confidence to succeed in the global stage.
Governor Alex Oti, at the launch of the education program known as Fostering Innovation Reform School Transformation, says it is a new philosophy to reposition the state educationally and otherwise.
The demands of the new environment has shifted
So your ambition and efforts must expand. Mediocrity will have no place in the world. You are going to functioning. You are either the best or you are not there at all. I hope you do not disappoint our collective expectations.
Special advisor to the governor on basic and secondary education, Kelechi Nwosu, says the state is developing a generation for the present and future.
The total transformation to inspire a new age whereby we'll be able to build up children that are going to remain competitive and be able to meet up the challenges of the new world and offer extra value, and also be able to affect even the region, the Southeast region, and the entire country.
Students and their teachers are hopeful that the new initiative will address the challenges bedeviling the schools.
Some of the structures are dilapidated, and the government is trying to renovate some of them and putting some teaching apparatus, like teaching things that we're going to use to, like teaching aids that we're going to use to help the students to understand practically what we are teaching to them.
Inadequate facilities in the lab, equipment that we're going to use for practicals, yes. We lack them in the school. So, but we are still seeing renovations, and the governor is promising us that all these things will be made justice to.
It's been all talks about how to revolutionize the education sector here in our state. But going forward, a lot of people will expect to see changes in the educational sector, especially as it concerns primary and secondary education. In Omar, here for News Central, Chiwe.
7 cases of Lassa fever have been confirmed in Plateau State, north-central Nigeria. News Central's Chizoba Aniwe was speaking with Job Marin, the state epidemiologist, who made the confirmation during an exclusive interview in Jos, the state capital. Now, according to him, 2 of the cases ended in fatality, while 2 have been discharged and others responding to treatment. Her report.
Lassa fever is a bacterial disease commonly experienced with people living in unhygienic environments and also having contact with animals, especially rats, that are major carriers of this disease. It is also known as a seasonal disease since it occurs between the months of October, in most cases lasting through 5 to 6 months. It is during this period that high number of cases are recorded and an outbreak is declared. Once contracted, these symptoms, according to the Plateau State epidemiologist, would manifest.
The first symptoms usually starts with fever, and then headache, body pain or muscle pain, and then the person may also have abdominal pain, that's stomach pain, as the man would say, and then diarrhea and vomiting. But sometimes it may start in the reverse order. It's a kind of multi-systemic presentation. Then the later stage is the one that the person will present with, bleeding from body openings. And then pregnant women also lose their babies because of that. It's part of the presentation. Or a baby, the growth of the baby will be retarded, or they may have early or premature, birth.
For him, if presented early, Lassa fever is not a death sentence, as otherwise presumed by many.
When the patient presents early, he can be saved 100%. But if the patient presents late, when he begins to bleed from or the body orifices or body openings, that is almost like a death sentence, because it's almost difficult to save that patient. So most of those people that died, they presented late, and in fact, almost all of them presented when they have started bleeding already.
However, there is no vaccination yet for this disease, which has continued to spread like wildfire.
Should I say that, unfortunately, this is a disease of the blacks, and anything disease of the blacks, the white men don't usually put much interest in. And for us, we hardly go into research and production of vaccines. But I want to believe that, well, the scientists are still working on it. We are yet to have a vaccine for this Lassa fever.
This remains a wake-up call for government to provide more laboratories for faster confirmation of cases and early treatment to save more lives. In Plateau for News Central, Chizoba Aniwe.
That was a report done by Chizobanyowe from Jos Plateau State on Lassa fever. Now, the United Nations Children Education Fund has called on Nigeria's government at all levels to minimize dependence on foreign aid for its health sector to prevent disruptions that will affect healthcare delivery. The UNICEF country representative to Nigeria, Christian Munduate, made this appeal during the closeout ceremony of the handover of the primary health care system strengthening initiative to the government of 8 benefiting states in the country. A correspondent, Joshua Imarai, has more on this.
The Primary Healthcare System Strengthening Initiative, which has supported healthcare delivery in 8 Nigerian states for the last 2 years, is transitioning the program ownership to the respective state government. The initiative, which ended with a national closeout event in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, was a collaborative effort between the International Vaccine Alliance, Gavi, the Federal Ministry of Health, UNICEF, and the 8 participating states. According to stakeholders, the program was designed to enhance routine immunization and strengthen primary healthcare systems.
And we set out some really bold ideas for how that support would translate into system strengthening, into routine immunization, into leadership, into health workforce, to address the needs and the gaps that we had collectively identified. We're learning what worked well. We need to learn what didn't work well so that we can continue to improve.
Stakeholders, however, urged the government to minimize reliance on foreign aid to prevent potential disruption to the country's healthcare system.
Now, looking at what is happening at the global level, we need to really reduce the reliance on others at all levels. What has happened by this US government decision has shook us to the core, but honestly, I think we knew this was coming because we cannot be forever rely on external support. All of us need to have our own ownership, our own accountabilities and own responsibilities as well.
My dear governors, my dear medical personnel, we are challenged to take the responsibilities for obvious reasons. In the long run, we should be prepared in case there's what we call donor doubt, donor denial, donor fatigue, and eventually donor stoppage. If you don't get ready for that, a calamity is waiting for us.
As Nigeria takes full ownership of the primary healthcare system strengthening initiative, stakeholders say the need for sustained investment in healthcare is imperative to ensure long-term resilience. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Now, news just reaching us in the studios confirms that Honorable Mudashiru Ajayi Obasa, who was impeached as the Speaker of the Lagos House of Assembly on the 13th of January 2025, is set to return. We understand that the security details have been restored, just as those of Honorable Mojisola Lasbat Miranda have been withdrawn. These are the updates reaching us regarding the House of Assembly drama that has been unfolded for a while. The security details have been restored for Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, just as those of Honorable Mojisola Lasbat Miranda have been withdrawn, and that is to indicate that the Speaker, the impeached Speaker, is set to return in no time to the Lagos State House of Assembly. Now we move on to our stories from other parts of Africa. The news continues in West Africa with security matters, as we understand that 2 attacks by armed bandits in southwestern Niger have killed 16 people. Now, while the perpetrators have not been identified, the attacks were similar to terrorist raids that have plagued the Central Sahel region in recent months. It was reported that the bandits gathered people from a village in Diodun on the 9th of February 2023, or 22 to 23 rather, and opened fire, killing 14 people. 2 nights later, attackers killed 2 people in a neighboring town in the same Niger Republic. The area around Diodun, which borders Nigeria and Benin, is said to be haven for terrorist groups. Still around Africa, Guinea-Bissau's opposition has called for a nationwide strike starting from Thursday, the day it says the mandate of President Umaru Sissoco Embaló officially ends. Embalo was sworn in for a 5-year term on the 27th of February 2020 after a disputed election in the West African nation, and announced last Sunday that elections would only be held in November. The opposition insists Embalo's term expires on the 27th of February, but gatherings have been banned for several weeks now by the Interior Ministry in the run-up to the date. In December 2023, Embalo dissolved the opposition-dominated parliament 3 days after armed clashes that he presented as an attempted coup. He then set early legislative elections for November 2024 before postponing them indefinitely by presidential decree after citing logistical and financial difficulties. And in Central Africa, a crowd gathered in the center of Bukavu in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo ahead of M23 and AFC leaders attending their first public rally since taking the city. Now, AFC is a political military coalition led by former DRC Independent National Electoral Commission President Corneille Nangaa. Thousands of people have fled the region to neighboring Burundi. Many of those who stayed behind were keen to clap the M23 as columns of fighters entered Bukavu. Bukavu was the latest area to fall into the hands of the M23, which in recent months has seized swaths of territory in the east, having once again taken up arms in the late 2021 in a country that has been plagued by decades of conflicts. And now South Africa has completed the evacuation of 127 troops from Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where they were deployed as part of a regional peacekeeping mission. Military spokesperson Prince Shabsabala confirmed that 21 soldiers returned on Tuesday, while 106 arrived on Wednesday. 4 are now in critical condition and 17 sustained moderate injuries. The troops were part of a Southern African Development Community (SADC) mission supporting the DRC government against the M23 armed group. Calls for a full withdrawal have intensified after 14 South African soldiers were killed in January. The Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, and Democratic Alliance, DA, have both urged the government to bring all troops home immediately. Now, South Africa is hosting the basic education sector, Lekotla, in Bucksburg, Johannesburg, under the theme Strengthening Foundations for Learning for a Resilient Future Fit Education System. The aim of this gathering is to deliberate at strengthening early childhood development for improved learning in later years, improving foundational skills of numeracy and literacy, especially reading, and the use of mother tongue-based bilingual education, and providing support and development programs to equip educators with skills. The South African Department of Basic Education has aligned the 2025 G20 Education and the 2025 Basic Education Lekotla agenda in line with the call by President Ramaphosa to take the G20 to the people. Now we cross over to our correspondent in South Africa for more on this development.
Quite an atmosphere here at the 10th Basic Education Lekotla that is happening in Johannesburg, where stakeholders in the education sector have gathered just to discuss the education system in South Africa, with President Cyril Ramaphosa delivering that significant key address that highlights both the improvements that the country has seen and also critical challenges South Africa still face within its education system. But blessing the president also noted that Africa's education system, while ranked 114 in the world and 10 in Africa in basic education, it also needs reforms, emphasizing the importance of laying basic education, especially for the young ones, as a fundamental priority. But as many educators, community leaders here are aware of these obstacles that looms large over the education system in South Africa. For instance, the early childhood education, which is still limited, and especially in the rural areas. But furthermore, blessing the lack of adequate funding in schools also add to a dire situation in these communities. And according to UNESCO, we know that South Africa lacks maths and science education, which is attributed to lack of teachers in these subjects. But however, some strides have been made, particularly a blessing in signing of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill by President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier this year. And this bill aims to strengthen the governance in the education sector. But also, despite these challenges, the Minister of Science, Innovation, Blade Ndimande, also highlighted in his speech that South Africa possesses one large science education systems in the continent. So, Blessing, this is something that South Africa is so proud of, especially in reshaping the narrative of its education system, but also as the dialogue here continues. There are lined up programs ahead of the G20 summit that is coming up in September, which reflects the progress that South Africa is taking in the future. And Blessing will continue also to bring updates on this gathering and discussions that are happening here for the next 2 days. So it's back to you in the studio now, Blessings.
All right, thank you so much, Mangani Ziziba, for that update. And definitely, like you said, it still continues to unfold, and we'll definitely look to see how that turns out. Now to stories outside the African continent. Israel freed hundreds of Palestinian prisoners on Thursday, shortly after saying Palestinian militant group Hamas handed over coffins believed to contain the bodies of 4 hostages. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said Israel had received the coffins of 4 fallen hostages, and a process to formally identify them had started. More than 600 had been due to be released in the latest exchange. 97 of them arrived in the Egyptian side of the Rafah border crossing with the Gaza Strip. They were supposed to have been freed at the weekend, but Israel stopped the process following outrage over elaborate ceremonies Hamas had been holding to hand over hostages seized in its unprecedented October 7, 2023 attack.
وشعور فرح وشعور أمل. بالتالي المرة الماضية يعني كانت يعني حركة ما بتصدر عن عقال أو على دول أو على أنظمة، تصدر فقط من ميليشيات. ولكن رغم ذلك احنا متعودين، شعبنا متعود للصدمات، متعود للعقبات.
لحظات لا توصف، فرحان كثير 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 للأمانة يعني. الحمد لله رب العالمين، إن شاء الله يفرح بالعالمين. يا الله يا رب يا رب يا رب.
نور يا حبيبي تزيد وتعالي.
الحمد لله.
سائد يا حبيبي.
الحمد لله.
يا عمي. هي لحظات عز، لحظات نصر، لحظات فخر، لحظات شرف، لحظات أمي، لحظات هذه بتمناها لكل بيت فلسطيني، بتمنى كل بيت فلسطيني عنده أسير يصل لهي المرحلة، وبإذن العالمين كل بيوتنا اللي عندهم أسرة تبيض السجون تتبيض وروحوا لأهلهم يا رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله. أما بنعمة ربك فحدث.
Now, several people were arrested and others slightly injured during incidents at a protest by pensioners held in front of the Argentine Congress in the city of Buenos Aires. Organized groups of pensioners, accompanied by left-wing groups, demonstrate every Wednesday in front of Parliament to protest against the low levels of their pension income. The national government of ultra-liberal Javier Milei ordered a major security operation with dozens of members of different federal forces, and in this context there were pushes, blows, and the police used pepper spray. At least 2 people were arrested and 2 members of the security forces were injured, although as of Wednesday evening the police had not issued any statement on the number of detainees or injured.
Estamos exigiendo hoy la moratoria y el cese de la represión por semejantes reclamos que estamos haciendo absolutamente justo. La única respuesta que tienen estos estafadores, ladrones de gallina, es pegar a las viejas y a los viejos como me acaban de hacer a mí y a tantísimos otros compañeros.
Te digo lo que cuando voy al supermercado, ¿viste? Para comprar varias cosas, salgo con lo mínimo imprescindible, porque todo está muy caro y va creciendo siempre. Los precios van siendo siempre. La jubilación.
And now to business stories. The Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA, and the City of Cape Town have finally signed an amended service level plan after delays and legal action by commuter activist group Unite Behind. The plan aims to establish an efficient and effective commuter rail service, with the city taking a management role. Key aspects include cooperation and safety, infrastructure maintenance, and the development of a unified payment system across public transport modes. Now, while critics argue the plan lacks firm targets and timelines, the agreement marks a significant step in improving Cape Town's commuter rail services and aligning them with the city's integrated public transport network. Now to sports stories. Nigeria's Quadri Aruna and Fatima Bello, alongside Egypt's Omar Hassan, Hannah Goda, Dina Meshref, and Mariam Aludabi have all booked their places to the 2025 ITTF World Cup for Macau, China, after reaching the ITTF Africa Cup semi-finals in Tunis. Aruna cruised past Ivory Coast Oba Kizito 4-0, while Bello dominated Tunisia's El Saidi 4-1. Assar survived a top 4-2 battle against Algeria's Mehdi Boulousa, and Benin's Abdelkader Salifu secured his first World Cup spot by beating Egypt's Mohamed El Bila. Other qualifiers include Egypt's Meshref, Lodabi, and Cameroon's Elaine Batix. The semi-finals will see Aruna face Batix, Asa take on Salifu, while Goda meets Bello and Meshref battles Aludabi. Well, that's all on the news at this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. Now, we told you that there was tension in Kano as security forces seal Emir's residence. We also mentioned that Nnamdi Kanu reports Abuja Chief Judge to Chief Justice of Nigeria over case jurisdiction. And finally, we mentioned that opposition in Guinea-Bissau has called for a nationwide strike over election postponement. And just as we go, we want to take this opportunity to also mention that we earlier broke the story that the police have restored the security details of former Speaker of the Lagos State Assembly, Right Honourable Mudashiru Obasa, just as the security details of current Speaker Right Honourable Mojisola Miranda have been withdrawn. We'll keep you up to date on this story developing as it goes. Well, you can watch News Central Live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Wasugu.